I remember the dash that I took when my boys were first born. In the hospital room there, the operation room, they gave me this little baby. The first one they gave to me, and I held him, and then they took him and they dashed off to the cleanup room, and I just tailed on, and I was following after him, and we worked the cleanup. The second one came. I was a little older. They gave me the little baby. They said, "No, you might take it." They said, "No." I said, "You go get your own boy. This is mine." And I took him, cleaned him up, and I dashed off. What a wonderful thing. But that first night home, some of you can remember that. I can remember it vividly. And you lay them in the crib and you're kind of afraid. And then they begin to cry in the middle of the night. You dash over there and you're almost afraid to pick them up because you don't want to hurt them. Then you dash with them when they start running around you. You watch it, they almost fall. And so you dash over and catch them so they don't fall. And then you begin the potty training and you dash them off to the potty, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. Then you watch them dash off to kindergarten. And I've watched many mothers come to kindergarten. And they drop their young one off for the first time. And they dash out to the car to cry. It's a difficult thing to leave your young one at school for the first time. And then middle school comes and you dash to their helps, but you also dash them to ball games, and you dash them to choir practice and to music and to school, and you're running here in youth group and you're running there and everywhere. And then you begin to not dash as much for them. They have to go off on their own. You watch, sometimes you want to dash beside them, but you know you best not. So you let them on their own, and they begin to start their own dashes. And they dash here and there, and your heart now moves with them as they go. The question still remains. We filled our dashes with our children. We filled our dashes with our work. But what will remain when we finally take that dash and we give it to God? What is it that will last in through eternity? That's really what we should be concentrating on. So I would like to suggest for you today that you fill your dash with love. Fill it with as much love as you can handle. And that you first fill your love for God. I was laying in bed this morning, I guess, about 3 o'clock, and I started thinking, a good teacher would set up a metrics for love, and they would start saying, well, we want to measure our love for God. We ought to have in our measurement, how much time we've spent with God and how much time I've actually been thinking about God. And am I doing what God wants? That should be on that line, and I should be able to check down there. And am I developing the characteristics that God would like me to character? And can I check them off? And I should have those listed somehow and begin to work at it. I haven't put that metrics together, but it's just a new thought for me. Probably should have a metrics for my wife too. I'll put that together. But we here are a place of worship. We come to worship God. It always amazes me when I hear people talk about, well, I'm not going to go to that church anymore because I really don't like the way the music's going, or I don't like the way the service is. I always kind of wonder, are we going to church for worshiping God, or do we go to church for my own personal entertainment? Church is a place where we come to worship God. It's a place where we have to learn to love and care and try to determine how we're going to love God best? I suggest that we begin to love God by loving our brothers. Jesus says, when you do this to the least of these, my brother, you're doing it unto me. So we love God by feeding the poor, by healing the sick, by helping the blind see, both figuratively and literally. My call to you today is very simple. Fill your dash with love for one another. I remember the story of St. John when his disciples came to him at his deathbed. The only disciple that died without being martyred. And they said, John, before you go, give us something that we can remember you by. Oh, he says, dear children, love one another. Oh, but John, he said, we have heard that over and over and over again from you. Give us a great teaching that we can hang on to. And he says, dear children, a great teaching I give to you. Love one another. But John, we've heard that, John. Give us a new word. Dear children, I will give you a new commandment. Love one another. It's new. It's fresh. It's constantly changing. With each situation, this call to love is new. So begin this call to love with loving God. And loving God by loving those around you. By spending time with God. By developing His nature within you. Fill your dash, secondly, with love for others. With love for your church. The church is not a perfect place. They're filled with all of us hypocrites. But the church is what Jesus calls His body. Talk about this is a good church or a bad church. We're all the church of God. And we're all called to be His body. And we're all called to be faithful to the church. You know, statistics tell us that a person who attends church 1 day out of 7 lives 7 years longer than a person who does not attend church. Just statistics. It's interesting. If you love the church, you actually are loving yourself. It's a gift to yourself. The resources within this church of knowledge, wisdom, physical support, of financial. You love your church. You love yourself. Because you are a part of that gift to each other and to yourself. So, fill your dash with love for your church. Todd told me how good you are. And everyone I've met so far is pretty neat here. If you're not, don't talk to me. Third, fill your dash with love for your family. Love your parents and your heritage. There is no child alive that does not have to forgive his or her parents for something. Don't hang on to the things that have you upset. Love your parents. Love your grandparents. Love your heritage. They are your roots. They are the thing that will nurture you. How we treat our parents is how our children will treat us. So love yourself by loving your parents. It will come back to you. Honor your father and your mother for your sake, if for no other sake.